I closed the org chart, opened my calendar. I had 3 meetings scheduled that afternoon. I attended all of them. No one mentioned the change. No one asked about my new title. The meetings proceeded exactly as they had for the past 3 years. I presented data. I answered questions. I took notes. At 4:15 p.m, I received an email from my actual manager. Subject line, "Quick sync?" I replied, "Available now." He called 30 seconds later. "Rebecca, hi. Do you have a minute?" "Yes." "I wanted to give you a heads up. There's been some restructuring. You might have seen the org chart update." "I saw it." "Right. So, just to clarify, your role isn't changing. Your work isn't changing. This is purely administrative. We're consolidating some reporting lines." "Understood." "You'll still report to me. You'll still do the same work. It's just a formality." "Okay." "Any questions?" "No." "Great. Thanks for being flexible." He hung up. I opened a new document, titled it Timeline, started typing. April 9th. Org chart updated without notice. Title changed to Administrative Support. Reporting line moved under VP Operations. April 9th. Manager confirms role unchanged, describes change as administrative. I saved the document, encrypted it, stored it in my personal cloud. Then I went back to work. The next morning, I received a calendar invitation. Meeting title, Q2 Strategic Review. Attendees, Executive Team. Location, Conference Room A. I wasn't invited. I'd attended every quarterly review for 2 years. I checked the agenda. It included presentations on workflow efficiency, system performance, and process optimization. All topics I'd built reports for. All topics I'd presented on previously. I didn't email to ask why I wasn't included. I just noted it. April 10th. Removed from Q2 Strategic Review calendar. No explanation provided. On Thursday, I noticed my access permissions had changed. I logged into the reporting dashboard. The admin panel was gone. I could still view reports, I could still run queries, but I couldn't edit configurations. I couldn't create new dashboards. I couldn't modify user permissions. I checked the access log. My permissions had been downgraded 2 days earlier. The change was made by someone in IT. The request came from the executive suite. I documented it. April 11th. Admin access to reporting system removed. View-only access remains. I didn't complain. I didn't ask IT to restore access. I continued my work using the permissions I had. Friday afternoon, I was copied on an email thread I shouldn't have seen. The VP of Operations, my new manager according to the org chart, had sent a message to the CFO. Subject, System Enhancement Proposal. The email described a plan to upgrade the workflow management system. It outlined new features, new reporting capabilities, new automation tools. Every feature listed was something I'd already built. Every capability already existed. Every tool was already in production. The proposal was dated for next quarter. Budget allocation, $200,000 for external consultants. I read it twice. Then I saved it. April 12th. VP Operations proposes system upgrades for features already implemented. Budget request, $200,000. The following week, nothing changed. I attended my regular meetings, I completed my regular work, I responded to emails, I delivered reports on time. No one mentioned my title, no one mentioned my access, no one mentioned the org chart. But I noticed small shifts. In meetings, my opinions were acknowledged less frequently. Questions I asked were answered briefly, then conversation moved on. When I sent reports, the reply rate dropped. I wasn't excluded, I wasn't ignored, I was just diminished. I documented each instance. April 15th. Recommendations in project meeting deferred without discussion. April 17th. Weekly status report acknowledged but not reviewed in team meeting. April 18th. Request for data access approval pending for 72 hours. Previous turnaround, 24 hours. 3 weeks after the org chart changed, I received another calendar invitation. Meeting title, System Architecture Review. Attendees, VP Operations, CFO, CTO, External Consultant. I wasn't invited, but the meeting was scheduled in a conference room adjacent to my desk. The walls were glass. I could see them gather. I recognised the external consultant. His firm specialised in enterprise workflow systems. I'd met him at a conference 2 years earlier. They spent 90 minutes reviewing documents. I watched the VP of Operations present. He used a deck I didn't recognise. He pointed to diagrams. He gestured at flowcharts. I couldn't hear the words, but I recognised the slides. They were mine. From a presentation I delivered 18 months ago. The branding had been changed. The title slide was different, but the content was identical. I took a screenshot of my view through the glass, saved it. April 29th. VP Operations presents System Architecture using materials from my March 2024 presentation. External Consultant present. I didn't confront him. I didn't send an email. I didn't mention it to my manager. I went home, opened my laptop, started compiling documentation. I had 3 years of files, project plans, system designs, architecture diagrams, email threads, meeting notes, code repositories with commit histories. Every file was timestamped, every document had metadata. Every system component had creation logs. I organised everything chronologically. I created a master index. I cross-referenced deliverables with official project records. Then I reviewed the company's intellectual property policy. Section 4.2. All work product created by employees in the course of employment is owned by the company. However, employees retain the right to be credited as creators of such work product in internal documentation and organisational records. Section 6.1. Employees who develop systems, processes or methodologies that are adopted company-wide shall be appropriately recognised in performance reviews and organisational materials. I'd read the policy when I was hired. I'd never thought about it since. Now I read it carefully. Then I checked the employee handbook. Page 47. Employees have the right to request correction of inaccurate personnel records, including job titles, reporting structures, and work history documentation. Page 52. Disputes regarding job classification or organisational placement may be escalated to human resources for review and resolution. I drafted an email. Not to my manager, not to the VP, to HR. Subject: Personnel Record Correction Request. I kept it brief, professional, factual. I am writing to request a review of my organisational placement and job title, as listed in the current company directory. My personnel file lists my title as Senior Business Analyst, Strategy Department. The organisational chart lists my title as Administrative Support, Operations Department. This discrepancy does not reflect my actual role, responsibilities, or reporting structure. Please advise on the appropriate process for correction. I didn't mention the access changes. I didn't mention the presentation. I didn't mention the consultant. I just requested correction of the record. I sent it on a Monday morning, received an auto-reply confirming receipt. HR responded 3 days later. Thank you for your inquiry. We have reviewed your personnel file and confirmed that your official title is Senior Business Analyst. The organisational chart reflects a recent restructuring of reporting relationships for administrative clarity. Your job responsibilities and compensation are unchanged. If you have specific concerns about your role, please discuss with your direct manager. The response didn't address the discrepancy. It didn't explain the restructuring. It didn't offer correction. I replied, "Thank you for confirming my official title. However, the organisational chart currently lists my title as Administrative Support, which contradicts my personnel file and does not accurately represent my work. Additionally, my recent access changes and exclusion from strategic planning meetings appear inconsistent with my job description as Senior Business Analyst. I would like to request a formal review of my organisational placement under the Personnel Record Correction Policy outlined in the Employee Handbook, page 47. I cited the policy. I cited the page number. I made it procedural. HR didn't reply for a week. When they did, it was a meeting invitation. Personnel Review Discussion. Attendee, HR Director. I accepted. The meeting was scheduled for the following Tuesday. 2 weeks had passed since my initial request. I prepared. I printed my personnel file. I printed the org chart. I printed my job description. I printed the employee handbook sections I'd referenced. I created a timeline of access changes. I created a list of meetings I'd been excluded from. I created a comparison of my actual work versus my listed title. I didn't print the VP's presentation. I didn't print the consultant proposal. I didn't print the credit theft evidence. Not yet. The HR director's name was Patricia. I'd met her twice, once during onboarding, once at a company event. She sat across from me in a small conference room, professional, neutral. "Rebecca, thank you for coming. I wanted to discuss your personnel record concerns." "I appreciate you taking the time." "I've reviewed your file. I've also spoken with your manager and the VP of Operations. Everyone confirms your role hasn't changed. You're still a senior business analyst. You still report to your current manager. The org chart update was part of a larger restructuring initiative." "Then why does the chart list me as administrative support?" "That was an error. We're working on correcting it." "When?" "The next org chart update is scheduled for next quarter." "That's 3 months away." "Yes." "And in the meantime, the public-facing chart lists incorrect information about my role." "It's an internal document." "It's published on the company intranet. It's included in board materials. It's distributed to clients during business development meetings." She paused. "I understand your concern, but this is a matter of administrative timing. The chart will be corrected in the next cycle." I placed my timeline on the table. I'd also like to discuss access changes. On April 11th, my admin permissions to the reporting system were removed. On April 9th, I was excluded from the Q2 strategic review. On April 29th, a consultant was brought in to review system architecture that I designed and currently maintain. These changes occurred immediately after the org chart update. Patricia looked at the timeline. I'm not aware of these specific changes. That's outside HR's purview. But they're directly related to how my role is being perceived. If the org chart says I'm administrative support, and my access is being downgraded, and I'm being excluded from strategic meetings, that's not just a clerical error. That's a systematic change to my role. Have you discussed this with your manager? He told me nothing was changing. Then I suggest you trust that. I didn't respond. She looked at me. Rebecca, I understand you're frustrated, but from HR's perspective, your title, your salary, and your reporting line are all unchanged. The org chart discrepancy will be fixed. If you have concerns about day-to-day work assignments, that's between you and your manager. I collected my documents. So HR will not be correcting the org chart before next quarter. Correct. And HR considers this matter resolved. We consider it addressed. I stood. Thank you for your time. I returned to my desk, opened my encrypted files, started a new document. I'd tried the internal process. I'd followed policy. I'd escalated appropriately. HR had declined to act. That meant I needed external authority. I reviewed the company's board structure. 7 members, 3 external, 4 internal. The board met quarterly. The next meeting was in 6 weeks. Board meetings included operational reviews. They included system performance reports. They included strategic initiative updates. All areas I'd built infrastructure for. I checked the board materials archive. Every quarterly deck included a section on technology systems. Every deck included workflow metrics. Every deck included data I'd generated. I opened the most recent board presentation, flipped to slide 47. System Performance Overview. The slide credited the VP of Operations for implementing enhanced reporting capabilities. I opened my files, found my project proposal from 15 months earlier, the proposal that outlined those exact capabilities, the proposal I'd authored, the proposal I'd executed. I compared the dates. My proposal, January 2024. System launch, March 2024. Board presentation crediting VP, April 2025. I documented the discrepancy. Then I drafted an email, not to HR, not to my manager, to the board's audit committee. The audit committee's mandate included oversight of internal controls, compliance, and corporate governance. According to the company charter, employees could submit concerns directly to the committee through a confidential reporting channel. I'd never used it. I'd never needed to. Now I did. I composed the message carefully. I am writing to bring to the Audit Committee's attention a pattern of inaccurate organisational documentation and potential misrepresentation of employee contributions in board materials. Specifically, I have identified discrepancies between official personnel records and published organisational charts, as well as instances where employee work product has been attributed to other individuals in executive presentations. I have attempted to resolve this matter through internal HR processes without success. I am submitting this concern to ensure accurate governance documentation and compliance with internal IP and personnel policies. Attached are supporting materials, including timeline documentation, policy references, and comparative analysis of project records versus board presentation materials. I attached 15 documents. Project proposals with my name and timestamp, system architecture diagrams with creation metadata, email threads showing my role as project lead, board presentations crediting others for my work. I didn't attach everything, just enough to establish the pattern. I sent it to the confidential reporting email at 6:47 p.m. on a Thursday. Then I went home. The audit committee didn't reply immediately. I didn't expect them to. Board committees met on fixed schedules. The next audit committee meeting was in 3 weeks. I continued my work. I attended meetings. I delivered reports. I said nothing about the email. 12 days after I submitted the report, I received a calendar invitation. Sender, Office of the General Counsel. Meeting title, Confidential Inquiry. Attendee, me. 1 attorney from legal, 1 member of the audit committee. No agenda provided. The meeting was scheduled for the following Monday. Conference room on the executive floor. I accepted without comment. I prepared the same way I prepared for HR. Documentation, timeline, comparison materials. But this time I brought more. I brought commit logs from code repositories showing my username on every system component. I brought email threads where I'd explained technical architecture to executives. I brought meeting notes where I'd presented strategy recommendations that later appeared in board materials under someone else's name. I brought 3 years of evidence. Monday arrived. The conference room was small, private, no glass walls. The attorney introduced herself as Jennifer. The audit committee member introduced himself as David. He was one of the external board members, former CFO of a technology company. Jennifer spoke first. Rebecca, thank you for coming. We've reviewed your submission to the audit committee. We'd like to ask some clarifying questions. Of course. You stated that organisational documentation inaccurately represents your role. Can you walk us through the specific discrepancies? I placed the org chart on the table. Then I placed my personnel file beside it. My personnel file lists me as Senior Business Analyst, Strategy Department. The organisational chart lists me as Administrative Support, Operations Department. The change occurred on April 9th, without notification or explanation. David leaned forward. And your manager confirmed your role hasn't changed? Correct. He described the org chart change as administrative. But you don't believe that's accurate? The change coincided with removal of my system access, exclusion from strategic meetings, and attribution of my work to others in executive presentations. Jennifer made a note. Let's talk about that last point. You mentioned work product being attributed to others? I opened my laptop, pulled up 2 files side by side. Left screen, my architecture proposal from January 2024. Title page, Workflow Management System Enhancement Proposal. Author, Rebecca Chen. Right screen, board presentation from April 2025. Slide 47. System Performance Overview. Implementation Lead, VP Operations. I rotated the laptop so they could see both. This proposal outlined system enhancements I designed and implemented between January and March 2024. This board slide credits the VP of Operations for implementing those same enhancements. I was not consulted for the board presentation. I was not credited. The VP presented my work as his own initiative. David studied both screens. Do you have documentation showing you led this implementation? I opened a folder, pulled out printed emails. Here are project kickoff emails I sent. Here are technical specifications I wrote. Here are code commits showing my work. Here are meeting notes where I presented progress to stakeholders, all dated between January and March 2024. Jennifer took the documents, reviewed them. And the board presentation that credited the VP, when was that delivered? April 15th, 2025, 3 weeks after the org chart change. David sat back. Have you raised this issue with the VP directly? No. Why not? Because the pattern suggests intentional credit misappropriation. Confronting him directly would only alert him before proper review. Jennifer looked at David. He nodded slightly. Rebecca, Jennifer said, we take these allegations seriously. The audit committee will be reviewing all materials you've submitted. We'll also be conducting an independent review of project documentation, board materials, and organizational records. What's the timeline? We'll complete our initial review before the next board meeting. That's 4 weeks from now. If we find sufficient evidence to support your concerns, we'll present findings to the full board. And if you don't, then we'll close the matter and provide you with a written explanation of our findings. I nodded. What happens in the meantime? You continue your normal work. You don't discuss this inquiry with anyone. We'll reach out if we need additional information. Understood. David spoke for the first time since the evidence review. One more question. Why did you wait until now to report this? I didn't wait. I followed proper channels. I submitted a personnel record correction request to HR. They declined to act. Internal policy allows escalation to the audit committee when internal processes fail. He nodded. Fair enough. The meeting ended at 4:15 p.m. I returned to my desk, opened my calendar, continued my work. 3 weeks passed. I heard nothing from legal, nothing from the audit committee, nothing from HR. The VP of Operations continued his normal schedule. My manager continued treating me normally. The org chart remained unchanged. I documented my daily work. I saved every email. I noted every meeting. I waited. On day 23, I received an email from Jennifer. Subject: Follow-up documentation request. Rebecca, the audit committee has completed its initial review and requests additional materials. Specifically, complete project file for workflow management system implementation, January to March 2024, all board presentations from Q2 2024 through Q1 2025 that reference systems you developed. Access logs showing permission changes to your accounts. Any correspondence with external consultants regarding system review. I compiled everything, organized it in a shared folder, sent the link within 2 hours. Jennifer replied, Received, thank you. The board meeting was scheduled for Thursday, May 29th. On Tuesday, May 27th, I received a calendar invitation. Sender, CEO's office. Meeting title, Executive Review. Attendees, me, CEO, General Counsel, Audit Committee Chair. Time, Thursday, 9 a.m. 2 hours before the board meeting. No agenda. I accepted. Thursday morning, I arrived at 8:55 a.m. The CEO's conference room was on the top floor, corner office, city view. The CEO, his name was Michael, sat at the head of the table. Jennifer sat to his right. David sat to his left. I sat across from them. Michael spoke first. Rebecca, thank you for your patience during this review. The Audit Committee has completed its investigation into your concerns. David, would you walk us through the findings? David opened a folder. We reviewed all materials Rebecca submitted, as well as additional documentation we pulled independently. Here's what we found. First, the organisational chart change. The update was initiated by the VP of Operations without approval from HR or the CEO's office. The change was characterised as administrative, but it violated company policy requiring executive approval for title changes. Second, system access. Rebecca's permissions were downgraded on April 11th without her knowledge or consent. The request came from the VP's office. IT processed it without verification. This also violated policy. Third, credit attribution. We reviewed board presentations from the past year. We found 4 instances where projects led by Rebecca were presented as initiatives led by the VP of Operations. In each case, Rebecca's name was removed from project documentation before presentation to the board. Fourth, the external consultant. The VP proposed a $200,000 engagement to implement features that already exist in production systems Rebecca built. The proposal misrepresented the current system's capabilities. Michael's expression didn't change. Conclusion? The evidence supports Rebecca's claims. The VP systematically misrepresented her contributions, altered organisational documentation to diminish her role, and attempted to secure budget for redundant work. This constitutes both policy violation and potential fraud. Michael looked at me. Rebecca, you brought this to HR first, is that correct? Yes. They told me the org chart would be fixed next quarter and declined further action. And you followed up through the Audit Committee's confidential channel? Correct. He nodded. The board will be reviewing these findings this morning. You'll receive a formal response within 48 hours. In the meantime, your org chart listing will be corrected today. Your system access will be restored today, and you'll be included in all strategic meetings going forward. What about the VP? That's a board matter. You'll be informed of the outcome. The meeting ended at 9:35 a.m. I returned to my desk, refreshed the org chart. It had already been updated. Rebecca Chen, Senior Business Analyst, Strategy Department. I checked my system access. Admin panel restored. I checked my calendar. Invitation to next week's strategic review. I was back on the attendee list. I opened my email. Nothing from the VP. Nothing from my manager. Nothing from HR. Just silent. At 2:47 p.m, an all-staff email went out. Subject: Leadership Transition. Effective immediately, the VP of Operations will be transitioning out of the company to pursue other opportunities. We thank him for his contributions and wish him well. Interim leadership responsibilities will be distributed among the executive team, pending a formal search for his replacement. No explanation, no details, no timeline, just the announcement. 2 days later, I received a formal letter from the CEO's office. Dear Rebecca, following the Audit Committee's review, the Board of Directors has confirmed the findings regarding organisational documentation inaccuracies and credit misattribution. The Board has taken appropriate action to address these issues. Your personnel record has been corrected. Your contributions to company systems and strategic initiatives have been formally acknowledged in our internal records. The Board has also directed that all future presentations accurately credit project leads and contributors. We appreciate your professionalism in bringing these matters to our attention through proper channels. Sincerely, Michael Henshaw, Chief Executive Officer. I filed the letter, closed my laptop. The next morning, I attended the weekly strategy meeting. My manager was there, the CTO was there, 3 directors were there. No one mentioned the VP. No one mentioned the investigation. No one mentioned the board review. The meeting proceeded normally. I presented data, I answered questions, I provided recommendations. At the end, the CTO turned to me. Rebecca, we're finalising the Q3 board deck. Can you prepare the systems update section? Of course. And this time, make sure your name is on the title slide. I nodded. The meeting adjourned. I returned to my desk, opened the org chart one more time. My name was exactly where it belonged. I closed the window and got back to work.